Can we start? So who can tell me what is Redux? What do you guys understand by Redux? Jeremy, what do you understand by Redux? Yeah, that's true. Didamata, what's something you know about Redux? Okay. So I think some of you, not all of you, according to the quiz, some of you read about Redux. And the first thing we know, as they were saying, it's that it's a global state management library in JavaScript. And it helps us to keep all the app state in one central place, which we call a store. And we're going to see what a store is. It makes state changes predictable with actions and reducers. Reducers are like functions that help us to change our state. Yeah, so you can also ask yourself the difference between Redux and React context, because we also saw that React context help us to access data in all our apps. So these are some of the differences. Redux is built for managing complex app-wide state. React context is best for simple static or low-frequency updates. It means that if you're dealing with complex, very complex data, you need to use Redux. And it has powerful Redux dev tools. Do you guys know what dev tools are? Have you heard of React dev tools? So when you go, for example, in Chrome, we have Chrome dev tools, and they are in the terminal. When you click inspect, they help us for us to debug, to see how our app is working. And Redux supports middleware. React context does not. A middleware is like it's something that should run before the real thing runs. For example, when you have login, we call a middleware for login. So login can become a middleware because we need to call login before, for example, calling the main application. And Redux is more optimized for large apps, but React context can re-render too often, which means if you have a large app, you need to use Redux. And the setup, it requires more boilerplate, but more scalable, easy setup by limited. For Redux, we write a lot of code, but then it's more manageable, it's more scalable, and it's more suitable for large apps. But for React context, the setup is easier, but again, you're also limited. So you can, depending on the kind of application you're going to work on, it's for you to choose between Redux and React context. So in Redux, we have some concepts. There is the store. This is like, you can take it in English. The store is like the main place where all your state will be placed. It holds all the state. And then actions. You guys remember use reducer? Yeah. So we used actions, and it can be like increment, decrement, depending on the state you're using. This is in the case of a counter. These are some of the actions. Reducers, as I was saying, these are functions to update state based on action. So you can have, these are functions to update state. You can have, for example, a function to increment. If the action is, for example, increment, you can have, the reducer can be to add one. Dispatch it sends an action to the reducer. When you're, for example, on your button, you have to call dispatch so that you can be able to use your reducer functions. And the selector, which you're also going to see, it gets data from the store. And a slice. A slice is a way where we combine all of this, a reducer, an action, an initial state, all of them which are bundled in one place. That's why we need to use a slice. It's like the modern way of using Redux. And yeah, you have to put the name of the slice. We're going to see this. You need an initial state. For the case of counter, the initial state can be 0, for example. You need a reducer to update the state, and you need to generate action. So can we go on in practice? I need you to open the next application you are working on, or if you want, you can create a new one. But the best thing is for you to open the one you're working on so that we don't delay in setup. So for me, I just opened the one we were using the first day. Have you guys opened a next application? Why not? It's okay. It's okay to create a new one or open an existing one. So guys, have a look at here. This is the, okay, before we start, we're going to be using, this is the folder structure we're going to be using. We'll be having our store. So our store, I said it's, what did I say a store is? I'm going to have my store, the slice. The slice will contain everything, the reducer, the action, the initial state, and then I'll have my counter component, and then this lib folder. This lib folder is used for us to, you can create this folder, for example, if you have some files that you want, some functions you want your app to be using, but they're not exactly among the things you'll be rendering. So you can put it in the lib directory. So we can start. Is there anyone who doesn't have a next app open or is still creating? Pamela, is it done? Yes. The components, whether it is in app or it is in source. The app is in source folder. The components. It's under app. So can you continue? So the first thing you need to do is install the library for Redux. You need to install React Redux and also Redux Toolkit. This is the So you need to first install these two packages. These two. Have you guys installed these packages? Yes. So now the next thing we're going to do, we're going to go in our, we're going to create all the, we're going to create all the directories we need. We can create our store, folder, lib. And then in our store, we can have the we're going to have our store.ts and our slice. In our lib, we can create provider. So let's first edit our slice. Our slice is going to contain all reducers, all actions for us to change the counter. I'm going to import create slice. Create slice is part of the Redux toolkit. Yeah, here. Create slice. Since we're using TypeScript, you can have an interface for and this interface contains the counter state, which will be the value, and the values type will be number. Then initial state. The type of initial state is Let me restart VS Code so that these suggestions. The initial value will be 0. So now we can create our slice. Let's see. We can create our slice. Using create slice. Create slice. The name of our slice. Reduces. So create slice takes some arguments. It takes the name, the initial state, and reducers, which are the functions for us to manage our state. We're going to have implement. Who can tell me the meaning of this? Do you know what I mean when I write this? State.value plus equal to 1. Hmm? Yeah. So this is a type of a way to increment. For example, if you have x equal to 1 and you want to increment, you can write x equal to x plus 1, which is also similar to x plus 4. Yeah. So basically here it's like I'm saying state.value is equal to state.value plus 1. Yeah. So the next thing I can do is exporting my functions in the slides. Increment. So here I'm exporting this increment, decrement, and reset as my counter slice actions. So is there any questions so far? No. So tell me when you're done writing this so we can move to our store. Later, you can write it. So let's move to our store. I want you to open your store.ts. We're going to import our reducer. Okay, reducer. So let me explain to you what this script is doing. Here on the first line, we're importing configure store, and it's from a Redux toolkit. Configure store, it helps us for us to make a store and make everything in one file. For example, it brings the middlewares, though we don't need them for now, but it also allows us to declare our reducer. So it basically helps us to create a store. Yeah. And this count reducer we're importing from counter slice. So counter slice is this one. The default export of counter slice was this one, counter slice.reducer. So when we say import counter reducer from counter slice, we're importing this counter slice, but then giving it the name counter reducer. We're assigning that name to it. What you guys are. So this configure store, for now, we're taking the reducer. It's taking an object, but for now, our object has the reducer key. And then we're, of course, using this counter reducer in our store. If you had many reducers, they'd all be in this store. If you had, for example, a store for, or a reducer for login, it would also come in this store. And this export type root state. So this root state, we're declaring a variable root state as a type, and then the return type is store.getState. When we say store.getState, it's the current value of our store. And now this root state will return the current value of this store. And app dispatch, you'll see it when we reach a place where we dispatch, but this app dispatch will return the type of this part of the store. Yeah. Can we move on? Is there any questions so far? You have an error. What is it saying? Hmm. So we're going in our provider. So a provider will use it in the same way we used it in React context. So I'm going to import. So this is our provider. In our provider, we have, if you remember well, in React context, we used to have a provider, which was the one which wraps all the children. And it says that we'll be using our store for all the things wrapped under provider. Yeah. So I was saying that in our provider, yeah, it's the same as React context. We need a provider as an element. And then here we're saying that our provider will wrap all children. So for example, here we're saying that everything that will be wrapped inside our provider, it will use this store. The store we imported the other store.ts. So we're just telling our app that everything wrapped inside this provider, this Redux provider, we're using our store, which means we can access it anywhere. We can manage the state of this anywhere. So now we can create our components. Components. Or we can even make it a page. Anything. Let's make it a page, the counter. Let's make it a page instead of a component. Page. That's it. And another thing, the reason I use this use client in my provider is that, okay, in the versions of Next from 13, I think we need this use client for codes that will run on the client. For example, if you have used use effect, use state, if you're managing the, if you're using use context, you need this use client because that code will be running on the client side. So let's go to our component page. Here's my component. Counter page. Yeah. So you remember when I exported the root state in my reducer? This is the one I'm using here. This root state. I'm using it here as the type for state. So let me go back to our notes. Use selector. So I just use the use selector. Use selector, it's used to read value from a Redux store. So that's why here I use this use selector. I am reading the value from my store. Oh. patch. I got to use this patch. So our next step, we're going to go in our layout. This one. This one. Want me to explain it? Are you done? Okay. So we're going to go in our layout. Where's our layout? In our layout, we need to wrap our provider inside everything. So we're going to import our Redux provider. Import Redux provider. And then everything here could be wrapping inside our Redux provider. Redux provider. Like this. Our counter is working well. Styles. What do you call counter? Yeah. You just need to import Redux provider and then you wrap everything. You just start wrapping inside this element. Hmm? Yes. So as you can see, our counter is working. Is there anyone with a question? Errors. Ibintu murabyumva? I'm not saying kubifata mu mutwe, just understanding kumva what a slice does, a store, a provider. I'm going to stop sharing. So I want us to understand all this together. Let's follow here. So the first thing you need to know, I don't want you to memorize like all these codes. I just want you to understand like the basic working of Redux. The first thing you need to know is that you have a slice. Yeah? And a slice, in a slice to everything, we'll be having a reducer, the initial state, the action. So this is our slice, which will be having the action, the initial state. So basically everything our app will need. Yeah. And then tukaza kugira a store. A store will store all slices. It's just that for this example, we have only one slice. But if you have like an app which has many slices, you can have all of them in this store. For now, the only one we have is this counter reducer, which is from this slice. Yeah. And so this is like the store. What's the synonym of store? It's like the storage. Let's say the storage of all slices. It will be in our store. And another thing you need to know is that you need a provider. So this is basically the same way in React context. For you to wrap everything, you need a provider which contains like your state, which contains everything related to your application. For now, it's our Redux provider. Impamvu dukeneye this provider ni kugira muri layout tuze kubona uko twimportinga our whole app kugira ize kubona uko ikoresha this whole Redux provider. Muri Redux provider we have like uko twimportingamo only the store. Muri provider turaza gufata store. Hanyuma muri store niho hari ibintu byose. Hanyuma this slice niho twadefininze the functions, the actions, everything we need. Yeah. Is it understandable? Amen, is it understandable? Were you following? So anyone with a question on the way Redux works? Yes. Okay, ubundi ibintu byose biba muri slice imbere na mbere, sibyo? Ukaza kubigimporting kuko dushobora kugira ama slice menshi. Rero niyo mpamvu twimportinga slice muri store yacu. Ariko ama functions yose aba ari muri slice. Hanyuma provider turaza gufata store yacu tuyizane muri provider iyo tuze kubasha kubikoresha muri layout. Yeah. Kamela, you have a question? You can ask.
Like we might say like slice it contains the list and interested and form. Then muri store niho aba contain all slices with information with it. Then they provider need containing storage. That's right.
Yeah. Provider ubundi ntabwo ari ya slice gusa suze muri React context ko twara tugira provider kugira ngo ize guprovidinga kuri layout kuri app yacu ibyo iyo context dufite for now ariko dufite state rero provider ifitemo twazanyemo store kugira ize kuyiprovidinga app yacu
Kandi nayo for life.
provider ntabwo ifitemo slice
No, like if they must store, that's store you contain this like
slice zose
yeah.
hanyuma slice imwe for now twari dufite slice imwe ariyo account yeah. You get it? No.
harimo internet aho ngaho badufite muri iyo internet iyo ngiyo tuyivuge hari ifoto y'amakuru yose
Is there anyone with a problem? Camera, questions?